Welcome in, everybody, to our next top 10 positional breakdowns video for the 2022 NFL Draft. And today we're going to be taking a look at this cornerback class. First off, I want to remind you that this channel would not be possible without my supporters on Patreon. And with it being the first of draft month here, there has never been a better time to check out my Patreon. You will get my full draft board. You will get even more information on these top 10 corners that we're going to talk about here today. You'll get my write-ups on every corner in this class. If there's guys that don't make this list, you want to know my thoughts about them, well, Patreon's the place to go for that. We've got film breakdowns. We've got a 7-round mock draft coming up for each team just around the corner here in April. So if you enjoy my draft content, I think you'll love my Patreon. I encourage you checking it out. Please do hit that like button as well before we get started so that YouTube knows to push this video out to more new viewers. If you are new, make sure you subscribe for more draft content just around the corner. And let's go ahead and get started with my number 10 corner. And it's going to be a little bit of a sleeper here, depending who you ask, I suppose. Damarri Mathis out of Pittsburgh. And Mathis was a really fun watch. He has, I would say, 3 traits that just can really translate to the next level, especially in like a press man system. And that is, he's fast, he's got really good press technique, and he's tough. So I do think he has a place in the NFL. We're talking about a 3rd, 4th round prospect here, not some day one starter. There's not going to be 10 day one starters in a cornerback class, but he can come in and be a dime corner right away. Don't forget that dime corners play a lot in the NFL. You're talking about at least 200 snaps in that role. And he can learn and grow and develop some of his weaknesses, which to me are zone IQ. He can run zone. He makes a lot of plays from zone coverage, but the problem with him is he's incredibly aggressive, and he's always got his eyes near the line of scrimmage. So while on one hand, he's going to jump a lot of flat routes, he's going to jump a lot of stop routes and really come up and show that, closing speed and toughness and tackling ability that he does have. He's also going to really give up a lot of stuff over the top. So, like, if you're talking about maybe a corner strike concept or different concepts that the NFL throw at him that are going to keep his eyes in that sort of short, flat area, if he's in like a cover 3 or maybe a quarters assignment, he's going to jump that thing, and that corner route or that deep post or that deep crosser is going to come wide open over the top of him, and it showed on tape. He busted some zone coverages. So in a zone system, you might give this prospect up to a team that's more of a man system or a zone match system, but those are the coachable traits: zone eyes, zone IQ. That's what you hope while he plays a dime role right away as a special teamer and a 4th corner for you. He can really turn into a full-fledged starter. I also think he can develop and become a starter in the slot. He has all of the physicality and run defense that you look for. He's almost 200 pounds at 5'11". Like, he can get off blocks and hang with some bigger receivers. So I really like that about him. And as far as just his straight up man coverage ability, it's pretty good. He's a little bit tight. He's pretty grabby, but for the most part, he's good at getting in guys' hip pockets. And playing physical down the field. So that's Damarri Mathis. Definitely going to be someone I'm a little bit higher on than a lot of people, and a potential my guy in this class. Number 9, Jalyn Armour-Davis out of Alabama. He's going to be much more of your traits-based developmental prospect, very raw, but 6'1", 197, just a 1-year starter at Alabama, declaring as a redshirt junior here. So he's got the development track. It's not easy to get on the field at Alabama, but he fought his way up that depth chart and did have a very good starting season as a junior there. So that right there is a pretty interesting profile. Then he comes out at the combine, he runs 4.39, puts up 14 bench reps, which is nothing to scoff at for a cornerback. And then you get to the tape, pretty solid. he's definitely raw, especially in like zone coverage. He just really is going to have to hit the film room and develop some of that risk management, the ability to anticipate route concepts, play with better spacing, and just, tighten the distance between him and receivers in zone coverage. It's just not something he's done a lot of, so you can't really fault him for that, but it is something he's going to have to work on. But as far as press coverage goes, he's pretty solid. I think he can continue to get better at pairing his hands with his legs, but he has all the physical traits to press at a very high level. I think he accelerates and has top speed to get vertical really well. So if you do run a lot of press coverage, I think he can grow in your system. I think a lack of awareness also shows in his ability to kind of squeeze routes at the breaking point. That's a lot of anticipation. It's a lot of just awareness and reaction time. Processing is just something that's going to have to come along with Jalyn Armour-Davis. But he doesn't necessarily struggle to find the ball. He's very capable in run defense. He's a very moldable prospect, and I think teams are going to be very attracted to him. I've got a round 3 grade on him. I compare him to Ahkello Witherspoon. Very similar deal. I think Ahkello went at the top of the 3rd round, took some time to kind of develop. He's bounced around the league a little bit, but had a very solid season for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year in a system that likes to run a lot of press man coverage. So comparable prospect there to Ahkello Witherspoon, which is not bad for a 3rd round pick. And then number 8, sticking in the SEC with Roger McCreary out of Auburn. Super fun player, man. Literally, man. Like, that's what Roger McCreary does. I think he has the most polished man coverage technique in this class. Now, he's only 5'11". He's got really short arms. He's not the fastest long speed guy in the world. He ran, I think, 4.50 flat at his combine. So the traits for him just aren't high end. I don't know if he'll ever be a number 1 guy. It's pretty unlikely. I compare him to Steven Nelson, who's just a really solid number 2 corner who's good in man coverage. But yes, he's 5'11", but he almost leverages that in his press coverage. Like, he gets up and under your chest. He's got a lot of stopping power in his punches, and he does not stop moving his feet as he mirrors receivers' release packages. So he is great in press. He's just able to get in a guy's hip pocket and just stay sticky in man coverage. Now, sure, he doesn't have that long speed. The elite athletes in the NFL just might be able to run by him. But you know what? Like I said, he went up against Jameson Williams a couple times, played physical down the route, and was able to slow that speed a good amount. That's really what he is. He is an established man corner. I have a 2nd round grade on him. I think he can start as a number 2 corner right away if you're in need. So certain teams might just need that plug-in corner. I think teams like the Chiefs, the Patriots, similar to what we said about Damarri Mathis, but at a higher elevated level. He's just much more polished in man coverage, could be looking for a Roger McCreary. Now, something you need to know is something he admitted to himself at the Senior Bowl. He doesn't know zone coverage. They didn't ask him to do it in his 4 years at Auburn, so it's just not something in his tool belt, but he's a very smart guy. He's self-aware in that way. So I do think he could be a nice kind of slot piece for different systems. Like, I don't think you have to be a press man team because there's only so many press man teams in the league. I think McCreary could be more of a guy that develops his zone instincts in time, but you probably don't want him starting as much if you're going to ask him to play from the slot or play a lot of quarters on the outside. He's just got to get comfortable in that. But he does have really good quickness to run those types of systems as well. He's just got to get there mentally. Tough enough in the run game. So pretty sound, high floor prospect here that I think ends up going late 2nd round. And now Zyon McCollum, my number 7 corner. And I surprised a lot of people on Tuesday's 2nd round mock draft when I had McCollum going 37th overall to the Houston Texans. But I said it then, I'll stand by it. This guy's going in the 2nd round. And over the last few days, it's been fun to see those RAS scores get thrown around on Twitter, and some people starting to say, like, NFL teams are keyed in on this guy. And there's a reason. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He has literally, just from a athletic testing standpoint, the most gifted athletic profile we've ever seen from a corner. I'm literally not kidding. You go back to, I think, 1929, no one has a better combination of athletic testing numbers. Let me just read these off for you. And these were all at the combine, mind you. 4.3340, elite. A 1.46 10-yard split. That is the fastest of any corner that I have noted so far in my top 22 players. A 6.48 3-cone. That is stuff that like 5'8" slot corners can hit. 3.94 shuttle time. Also elite to be under 4 there. A 132-inch broad jump and a 39.5-inch vertical. Every single box there is in like the top percentile. It is absurd how athletic this guy is. And it translates to the field. You can see the movement speed and the fluidity out there. So the upside for him is off the charts. And teams will be keyed in on that. And some people might be turned off by the fact that he's a redshirt senior out of Sam Houston State. You got to remember they played a spring season. So it's very likely that if they played in the fall, he would have stood out, gotten that Senior Bowl invite, and been here. This guy's played like 30 games in the last year. So it's just a unique situation there. It doesn't scare me off. He's not a perfect player on the field. I think he does play a little bit lighter. I think those athletic testing numbers do come at the cost of play strength, and there's no bench there. So he can get bodied down the field in the red zone, fade routes or back shoulders, or anytime there's contact. And, if he goes against like a Drake London or a Michael Thomas, it might not be the best matchup for him necessarily, but he's got a little bit of room to beef up there. It also shows when he's pressing. He just is not very good with his hands in press coverage, but that's something that they coach really well at the NFL level. So going from Sam Houston to the NFL, I think they can really improve his press coverage. He's a smart player. He's been praised for his character and his leadership, a team captain, all that stuff. He ran any coverage in the book at Sam Houston State. So I think he can go man. I think he can go zone. It's just about, getting the right coaching and him putting all of it to his metal. I need to add his tackling was pretty poor. He just struggled to wrap guys up. So he's not very strong. Maybe an NFL weight room can get that out of him a little bit more. But for the most part, you're talking about elite upside with Zyon McCollum. I don't know if he starts day one. I have him going to the Houston Texans, where why not put him out there in Lovie Smith's cover 2 system, which is pretty easy on outside corners, and just let him develop on the field. I love that fit, man. Grew up down the street in Houston. Huge need for the Texans. I hope we see that happen. Kind of a hometown pick for those Houston Texans. But this is a guy, if you're not aware of, he's going to go. He's going to go at least on day 3. At least on day 2 in the second or third round. I would be pretty surprised if someone doesn't want to gamble on him in the second round. All right, now my number 6 corner is Kyler Gordon out of Washington. This is one of my favorite player comps, at least in this cornerback class. I think it is bang on Rashad Fenton for the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe a little bit of an underrated player if you're not too familiar with the Chiefs, but what Fenton does is can line up everywhere, outside, slot. He can go press man. He can come off and play zone. Just a tough, quick, smart player. And that is Kyler Gordon in a nutshell. He is rocked up. He's got the short area quickness you look for. He's good at getting in guys' hip pockets in man coverage. He can even handle like tight ends from the slot, which you love to see. He just doesn't have that, long striding, long speed that you look for to be a true like vertical protector on the outside. So I think he can hang as a perimeter corner if he has help over the top. But I love what he can do in the slot. I think if you ask him to start in the slot day 1, he can be a top 16 slot corner immediately. But just like Rashad Fenton, he can play outside and not get lost as well. So that's a second round pick. I don't know if he has the upside to be a superstar, but if you need a day 1 impact, hell, if corners are flying off the board and you're desperate at the end of the first round, I'm really not going to fault anyone for drafting Kyler Gordon because I just feel like he's going to be a very sound player. But then my number 5 corner is Kaiir Elam out of Florida. And he brings me back to that man coverage profile, sort of like we talked about with McCreary and Damarri Mathis, where they're super physical, strong arms, and good legs to mirror release packages to just be dominant at the line of scrimmage. But Kaiir Elam kind of takes it to the next level. He's bigger, for one. He's 6'2", but that comes with some added strength. He's dominant, like flushing guys to the sideline and just kind of taking them out of the play, giving them nowhere to go, which is just fun to watch. He's got better long speed than those guys as well. He's pretty high hipped. He's a little bit tighter. I think he will get lost in man coverage against some of the better route runners at the next level. And in zone coverage, I just didn't love what I saw. I didn't love his spacing. He was a risk taker for sure, but his gambles just didn't often pay off, and there was a lot of busted coverages on his tape. So that's something that you really hope can come along. You know, it's not that he didn't play zone coverage at Florida. He didn't really get that zone IQ feel to him like some of these other corners and some of the guys we're going to talk about here. But I compare him to Marcus Peters, which is actually pretty high praise. I don't know if he'll be quite the level of corner of Marcus Peters, but I don't think he'll be that far off. I mean, I think Peters has shown to be best as a number 2 corner in Baltimore in a press man system where he can play physical. You live with some of the flags and the over physicality aspect of his game because he's going to make some plays. And I think that's Kaiir Elam in a nutshell. I think end of the first round, these man coverage teams that we keep talking about, Patriots, Chiefs, would make pretty good sense for Kaiir Elam. But likewise, zone-heavy teams, especially quarters-heavy systems, I don't think he transitions all that well, like coming down on in-breakers and out-breakers and stuff from off coverage. I think he's much more comfortable just sticking tight from the start, getting in press, and hanging in a guy's hip pocket and playing physical. I don't love how he kind of plays in space as much. So that's Kaiir Elam. And then Andrew Booth out of Clemson. May have scared some Washington fans there. No Trent McDuffie yet. But Booth is actually the complete opposite of pretty much everything we've said about these more man-heavy corners with Kaiir Elam, Roger McCreary, Mathis, where it's like, yeah, they can run man coverage, but they got to work on their zone IQ. Andrew Booth is the complete opposite in that he ran almost exclusively zone coverage at Clemson and almost never ran real press coverage. He ran a ton of press bail. Now, granted, press bail is very common in the NFL, especially in those Fangio-style systems where they're shown cover 3 press, but you're not actually asked to put your hands on guys. They want you to bail, keep your eyes on the quarterback, ride the saddle is what they call it, and he's going to be really good in those systems. So, cover 4 heavy teams. I think even like Minnesota would make a lot of sense for Booth. It might be a little bit rich, but that just comes to my mind because they're going to run a Vic Fangio style system. Maybe keep an eye on that. Maybe Arizona would make sense too. But one thing with Booth is just because he wasn't asked to put his hands on receivers and get physical and play that press man style doesn't mean he can't. I do think he's a little bit stiff. I do think some of the best route runners in the league would give him fits in more man trail type of scenarios, but I think he can run man coverage if he works at it. But in zone, I like what you see, especially because he has some of the best acceleration of any corner in this class. So in press bail, he can fly vertical. Like, you are not going to get over the top of him very easily in those press bail situations. And the acceleration really shows as well when he's in an off coverage, reading the quarterback's eyes, and he can close downhill very quickly. Because if you're in a quarters off coverage, your defense is extremely vulnerable to out routes, hitch routes, underneath stuff. So you need a corner that can flip downhill and just close immediately. And that is something Andrew Booth showed really well. He's almost like a slower version as well of like what Eric Stokes was able to do for Green Bay last year. But he's not like, he doesn't have 4.2 speed like Stokes does, but he's got good 4.3 speed. So I like Booth a lot in zone-heavy systems, and him and Elam are very close. It just depends on kind of what style defense you're running, which is really important when you're drafting a corner to put him in the right system to succeed. And then number 3, we will have Trent McDuffie, and McDuffie is a clear-cut first-round grade. I'm a huge fan of Trent McDuffie. He's going to get a lot of Byron Murphy comparisons because coming out of Washington, like Byron Murphy, 5'11", similar size to Byron Murphy, but Trent McDuffie is a faster and honestly more instinctive zone corner than Byron Murphy ever was. Murphy was really sticky in man coverage and showed that quickness, but McDuffie shows that and some. And Murphy's a good player. He's turned into a good solid corner for the Cardinals. But what's a step higher than that? Tre'Davious White. Like, I think he can be that level of corner. Tre'Davious White's like one of the smartest, highest IQ corners in the league. It's going to be hard for Trent McDuffie to match that. But I think if he gets in a system like Buffalo runs, where he can run a lot of quarters, defense, and show the quickness to do some of that stuff we talked about with Andrew Booth, to close and don't give up a ton of underneath stuff while also protecting over the top, like, he has everything in his tool belt to be a very similar corner. I think a lower level version of that is like what we see from Kendall Fuller in Washington. So enough with the comps. He's just a damn good football player, man. He's got speed. He's got quickness. He can press. He's not like the strongest guy battling through contact down the field, but he can hold his own. That would maybe be his weakest trait, but again, he showed he can do it. And of course, in zone, just super smart, super versatile, head on a swivel, cutting off receivers, like bouncing around, playing with the quarterback. You see it from Trent McDuffie more than anyone in this class, frankly. And you love that, especially in these hybrid systems. Like you can run cover 9 and have him go deep as a cover 2 safety from the cornerback position. You can do a lot of different fun, versatile zone coverages to mess with quarterbacks with Trent McDuffie. And it's nice to know that he defends the run and doesn't get lost in man coverage either. So really impressed by Trent McDuffie. Easy first round grade. I think he's a top 15 player in this draft. And keep an eye on Minnesota for Trent McDuffie, because they're going to be running that system we described with a lot of that off quarters coverage. They hold that 12th, 13th pick. I think it'll be hard for him to get past the Vikings. All right, my number 2 corner is Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Some people will be mad. It is what it is. I like the ceiling of Derek Stingley, but I will not lie. Like, Ahmad Gardner is the safest corner, the highest floor corner in this draft. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a corner prospect that is better in press than Sauce Gardner. Just seriously, hand placement, strength, matching it with his feet, ability to flip and accelerate vertically very well. It's all there with Sauce Gardner. Top speed, very good. Not elite, but very good. His biggest weakness is going to be that change of direction. He didn't really go up against any like elite route runners in his time at Cincinnati. Most corners don't. I'm not trying to knock the level of competition, but I do see a little bit of hip tightness in his ability to kind of match in routes, comebackers, like the high-end route running stuff. I don't know if he has the upside to be Stephon Gilmore, for example, but that's pretty dang nitpicky. I compare him to Aqib Talib, who was a dominant press corner for a long-ass time in the NFL. And even though I have Stingley here number 1, really not trying to knock Sauce Gardner. I think they're both top 10 players in this draft. And honestly, depending on your system, I could see a world where you draft Ahmad Gardner, and depending on your medicals, like if you are really worried about the Liz Frank with Derek Stingley, totally going to understand drafting Ahmad Gardner ahead of Stingley, which is probably what we see in the real draft. But I am going to gamble on Derek Stingley here. So you'll see he does have that medical red plus next to his name. He's dealing with a serious ankle injury, and I don't have doctors advising me on this pick. If you're worried, if doctors say this thing could lead to a recurring injury, or you think it's slowing him down, absolutely. Like, there is something to investigate there, and that's just information I can't have. I'm going to hold faith and just go off of the information I do have and say I think he can get back to full speed. And full speed Derek Stingley is the best player in this draft. He just is. You go back to 2019 for the championship LSU Tigers. He was elite level athlete. You can see the speed, the acceleration to get vertical, matching breaks with agility and change of direction. You name it. He's got length, 6'1". What's truly unique about Derek Stingley is his just poise in phase, which I can't believe we went 9 corners without using the word phase, but that is such an important aspect for cornerback play, is the ability to just be comfortable. We've talked about being comfortable bumping and going through contact, but a big part of like ball skills and doing your job of defending the pass at the most basic level is understanding and having that feel for the game of when the ball is coming, how to be comfortable and control your body, find the ball and make a play on the ball. Like, that is one of the hardest parts of being a cornerback. And Derek Stingley has the best tape I've ever seen from a college corner doing that. Just so natural in that part of the game. And that's where the true upside comes from. That's why the Stephon Gilmore comp is there, because Gilmore gives you the athleticism. He gives you the physicality and technique in press. He gives you great man coverage. He's a guy that got better and better in zone as his career went on. But on top of all of that, what Stephon Gilmore has is that ability to find the ball. Don't panic when the ball's coming. Don't get the pass interference. No, just everything's fine. Turn around, find the ball, get an interception. And Derek Stingley can do that. So I'm going to gamble that he can get healthy, one. And also I'm going to gamble that, there's a big criticism that he just wasn't as good in 2020, and he wasn't as good in 2021. Well, think of it this way. You're Derek Stingley. You win a national championship with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all these guys. Not T. Higgins. Justin Jefferson. All these superstars. Christian Fulton. You name it. The list goes on and on and on. You win a national championship, but everyone agrees you were one of one of the 3 best players on that team. You won the award for the best freshman in college football. Everyone's saying, get picks for the 2022 draft so you can take Derek Stingley as the first corner ever drafted #1 overall. Like, that was the hype for Derek Stingley. And then so he comes back. He's like, all right, whatever. The entire team went pro. At some point between then and 2021, Ed Orgeron left. I lost track of how that all happened. So his head coach leaves. So you have this stupid 2020 season where your team sucks. You have no fans. He's out there just kind of going through the motions. And he didn't suck. He had PFF grade of like 70. Teams kind of avoided him. His tape just wasn't as good, but he definitely didn't suck. And then 2021 comes. Again, not full motivation, but he hadn't even gotten to the SEC part of the schedule, and he gets the Liz Frank injury. So for me, I'm willing to gamble that he's looking at this as like, I'm going to come back fully healthy, back into the NFL. I'm going to get my swagger back, and I am willing to bet that he can, because if you do, you are getting the best player in the draft. Now, the injury risk needs to be factored in there. The risk that he can't get that swagger back needs to get factored in there. That's why he's a 6'9". He's a top 10 player in this class and not a top 3 and a blue chip prospect. But, I think that's a notable drop on what his upside is. So that's my stance on Derek Stingley. He gets me excited. Sauce gets me excited. If you've got Sauce #1, no complaints from me. I get it. Trust me, I do. But there's my top 10 corners video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your comments down below. What corners do you have in your top 10 that weren't on my list? But do remember, you can get evaluations on those players on my Patreon. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe so you don't miss any more draft content. And we'll see you guys soon. Peace out.